Brian, what's the near field Youthman is referring to? Great question, man. Separate system. So you guys go ahead and take the floor on that one. Near field is something that I experienced when I went to both Kansas City as well as the Wisconsin and Illinois tour. And I think it's super cool.
Jonathan?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different flavors of it, but the traditional sense and the one that I most enjoy is when you have the 18-inch sealed subwoofer or larger, 15 even probably would work, right up against the back of your chair. So the driver cone is facing directly into your back, as close to proximity as possible, and you time align it with like a mini DSP, maybe even your subwoofer channel if your AVR has fine enough adjustments, and it just feels so natural, and you get that tactile feel in spades from the cone driver displacement. It's just way different than having like what you would call an equivalent like a far field sub. Like my far field subs get my finger in the right spot up there against the front wall. I can have, I'll tell you this, as one of my tests when I was first putting up my room, I had 7 of those 18-inch drivers up against that front wall, and I put one just directly behind my seat, which see if I can move there, see how those are right behind my seat.
Right there.
So I had 7 up front and 1 right behind my seat. And when I was doing my testing back and forth, the one subwoofer, and they're all getting the same power. They're all getting like one side of an amp. iNuke 6000s. I have 4 iNuke 6000s. So each subwoofer is getting, one side of the amp. One driver directly behind the seat, near field sealed, provided more tactile feel than all 7 of them on up front. So that kind of gives you some idea of what it does. It just it provides a very intense, like natural feel of acoustic energy. It's pretty fun.
Well, and you don't have to feel like you're ripping your room apart in order to get that.
Yeah.
Right. The volume can be much lower to get that feel.
Yeah. And
once you do it, there's no going back.
Yeah. It's I love it. If I had room, 100%, I'd be adding them in my room. 100%.
Jonathan and I have been ruining a lot of people with them having to
they're
go
phenomenal.
near fields as of lately.
Yeah. I've felt 18s, 21s, and I think one gentleman had a 24.
Doug had the 24s.
Yeah, and even a guy here in Florida had one. He had the Stereo Integrity 24 right behind his seat. Man, it's cow, man. It's
the 24.
It's
so
exciting,
intense.
bro. It's exciting. And again, it's all about calibration. So you don't have to. I mean, Jonathan has in his setup to where he can kind of go, low, medium, high, and rearrange your organs, kind of thing. But you don't have to have it on that 4 setting. Like we kind of preferred. I like the second one, I think, and you might even prefer the first one.
I just prefer the lowest one's the most natural to me.
Yeah, I like the second one because I like a little bit more bass. But then you get to the 3 and 4, and it starts taking me out of the experience. It's fun. It's cool to just kind of demo, but not like watching a movie. So
those settings are kind of arbitrary, right? Because they're just settings that I chose to my preference, and then I add 2 dB each time. So it's from my preference to 8 dB on setting 4. So he's saying he likes 2 dB more than me, and that's just it's subjective. Yep.
So Shiraz asks, how is near field different from Boss? And really, the biggest one is that most people that do Boss do open baffle, and they don't have an enclosure when they're doing Boss. So Jonathan and I both have Boss, and it's a different experience. It's more, I don't even know how that I would describe it in comparison between the two.
They all feel a little different, and Boss feels very natural too. So there's different flavors of Boss too. There's a tactile thread on ABS form that's like 8,000 posts long or something, and it just keeps going. And there's so many variations. The kind that Ryan, you didn't do a platform, you did a direct attached, right?
Yeah, I did direct attach.
Okay, so the direct attached ones are open air. They don't make any sound. Just think of the subwoofer driver. The cone is moving. It's mounted at the bottom of my seats, for instance. I think Ryan did the same sort of thing. The driver cone and its weighted mass is moving on the chair, and you've got some rubber feet. And so it's moving in tune as if it was playing, but it's not making any sound. A near field sub is in a box, and so it makes sound just like a regular subwoofer. So you're getting that actual sound in the room versus just motion. They do feel different. Both feel very natural. Both are very good, and both are probably pleasing enough to have alone. But if you like it and you play with it, you can add them all.
Crazy, then you throw tactile on top of that, and you take it to an even more insane level.
Yeah. My vote, man, again, again, in your room, do you have the space for a near field subwoofer? Because it does take up space behind your main listening position.
Boss, as
Right.
long as you have room under your chair, it
Mhm.
doesn't take up anything.
Yeah. I
Right.
mean, in your setup, there's no extra space that it requires. My preference, though, I'm
Near
a
field.
I'm a near field guy, man. I like it.
I think if I could do one and could only do one, it would be near field.
Boss is so dependent on the presentation of it, though. So, like where you mount it, the structure, the rigidity of your chair, how much
Even the
bounce on the
type.
feet. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many variables to Boss that I think you can get a totally different experience with the same driver on two different chairs.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I think your setup is the only one that has it like that. Everybody else, the Boss,
It's on
the
a
Hover
platform.
Boss, and the
Mhm.
Hover Easy that I experienced was
Yeah.
on a
I
platform, and
don't
the
think
whole
anybody.
thing is.
Jonathan and I are the only
I
ones that
don't
have
care
direct
for that.
attach.
Yeah, I'll be honest. That never. It always took me out of the experience for me.
I
Like
mean,
I always knew in my brain, okay, that's what's happening below me, instead of okay, the gunshot on the screen is what I'm feeling. You know,
to
I
me, it's
was
very
never.
immersive if you're watching Fury.
Yeah,
You get
no,
the
dude.
tank ride.
That was insane, man. I was like, it was crazy, man. It can be violent too. So, yeah, it doesn't help when somebody goes, "Hey, I normally never listen to it this loud or this high of a setting, but so you're going for a ride on that."
It's pointed out in the comments too, and it's a good point. If you don't want to mess with trying to integrate near field and far field subs,
Mhm.
the near field takes that out of the equation because it's not making any sound. So it's not going to do any phase issues. It's not going to cause you trouble. You can dial it in without affecting your frequency response from your main subwoofers. So that aspect is nice, but it doesn't have to be bad. I mean, you can make your near field very much add to your overall far field sub experience. So if you want to take the time, the near field doesn't have to be a negative.
Gotcha.